Okay, let's talk about the tools you will need to be successful at learning music theory. They're pretty simple. They're not a lot. And they can both be free to you. The main thing I want you to have is some staff paper. Staff paper is, there's lots of different kinds of staff paper, and I could get really nerdy and tell you about what I prefer in staff paper and the different types of staff paper and all these different things. All staff paper is some paper with the 5 lines on it, right? That's called the staff. And we're going to get into how to use that shortly. But it's handy to have some of this, and I prefer to have some printed out and some actual paper and a good pencil. This is how I like to work. But I'm a little bit old school when it comes to that. So you don't need to. The cool thing, though, is that you can find different kinds of staff paper all over the internet, and you can just print it out. Although there is something to be said for some really nice actual physical paper. So when it's printed on really good paper, the best staff paper I've found is actually at a store in Paris called La Flûte de Pan. So if you're ever there, pick up some of their locally made staff paper. It just feels beautiful. It's just really great paper. Anyway, I promised I wasn't going to nerd out on different kinds of staff paper. I'm going to give you a PDF in the next little blurb here. There's going to be a downloadable PDF with some staff paper. So download that, print out a handful of sheets if you want to use staff paper. Get yourself a nice pencil or pen, and you'll have some paper ready to go. So when I explain some stuff, you can draw it out. Now, you don't have to use staff paper. You can use software to do that, and that is thing number 2 for tools. I would recommend using software anyway, even if you're going to use paper, because the thing about paper is that you can't hit play and hear it back, hear what you've written down on paper. Software, you can. So there's a couple different programs that you can use to do this. There are kind of 3 on the market right now. There's one called Sibelius. Sibelius is a good program. A lot of people like it. The problem with Sibelius, though, is that, long story short, it was bought by Avid, the company that owns Pro Tools, and they've ceased development of it. So it's not a smart investment to buy. It's a bit expensive, and I wouldn't recommend buying it because of that. The next program that's kind of the big dog right now that Sibelius is gone, is a program called Finale. It's made by a company called Make Music. That one, it's also a bit expensive. I'm not sure how much it is right now. It's probably around $300, maybe $400. It's a good program. It's a very robust program. But people have a love-hate relationship with it. It can be really hard to learn. And a lot of people find it really frustrating. And I don't want to dive into just saying use this program that's hard to learn and have you get frustrated on your theory projects by having to deal with a frustrating program. So there is a third option that I want us to use. This is a program called MuseScore. I'm going to talk about this more in the next video, but MuseScore is a program that'll do everything we want, and it's free. MuseScore is a free open source program. Now, what we're talking about here is the general word for these three programs these are called notation editors. They're kind of like a text editor, would be like Microsoft Word or anything like that. These are notation editors. They let us work with musical notation. MuseScore, to be completely honest, is not as good as Finale or Sibelius. But I've been really impressed with how this program is coming around. And since it's free, I've decided to teach this whole class using MuseScore so that you can, because I know you can get it, right? Because it's free. I'm not going to ask you to buy anything else. I've seen some of my students have come in to lessons using MuseScore, and they've had beautifully put together scores. So I know that it's capable of a lot. It's come a long way. So I think it's a really good program. So download this program called MuseScore. You can get it at musescore.org. That's musescore.org. And the one that I'm using, I'm going to be using in this class is MuseScore 2.0.2. So MuseScore 2, basically. So if you want to follow along, that's what I'll be using. If there's a new version of MuseScore when you're watching this, that's probably just fine. So the main tools, just review. Staff paper, if you like. I prefer to have some printed staff paper. It's handy. In the next video, there's going to be a little, or not video, but in the next segment, you can download a PDF of some staff paper that you can just print out, have on hand for when you want to just jot things down using staff paper. And a notation editor program. Finale works, Sibelius works, and MuseScore works. I'm going to be using MuseScore in this class, but this isn't going to be a class on how to use MuseScore. That's not what we're doing here. We're doing a music theory class. So either of those three programs will work just fine. We're going to be talking about music theory, not about how to use this program. But in the next video, I'll show you real quick the super basics of how it works.